So, back to the technology show.
It is the technology show where we translate geek into regular speak. I'm Brett Levy and I'm your host this week. So today's show is called Dress to the Nines Part 1, as Google has given us an absolute smorgasbord of new tech. So much so that it actually has to be done over multiple shows. So let's get into the presentation, get that up on the screen for those of you that are watching. So the Made by Google event was a couple of weeks ago, and as I said, I've been fortunate enough to play with some of the cool tech. I did hint about it in the last show that we did. They released all kinds of different devices, new software updates. The word AI was thrown around a lot. I'm going to try and not talk about AI that much today. In fact, I'm going to probably save that for part 2 of the Dress to the Nines show. Now, as you know, I play all my games on a Pixel. So when people want to send me a new set of nines, so specifically the Pixel 9 and the Pixel 9 Pro XL, Christmas truly came early. That's all I can say. Now, there's a lot of other devices that were mentioned in the Made by Google. In fact, if you're watching the show, I've got a screen up as well that shows one that's quite clearly obvious and very exciting is the Pixel Fold Pro. There's a new set of earbuds that are coming out, and there's a new watch in different sizes coming out. So there's a lot that's happening. Today, though, I'm only looking at the 2 devices that I've been playing with for the last few days. Let's put it that way. So let's get into it. So first up, let's start with the Google Pixel 9. Now, this is a fully newly designed device. We're not just talking aesthetics here. It's a new shape. There's new styling. And the one thing that really will stick out for everyone is the new, I'm going to call it the camera island, but in the old Pixel devices, 8 backwards, I think it was called the bridge. There was a very distinct solid line that went across the camera housing on the back. As I said, it's now an island. It floats freely, a lot more like some of the other devices that are out there. It's truly a new phone rather than a new model. It looks a little bit similar to an iPhone, I might add, when you sit and touch. And for those who are watching it, I'm holding it there. You know, from the front, definitely has an Apple iPhone appeal to it, the sides, but the back clearly straight away shows you this is no iPhone. Now, it comes in as 6.3 inch. It's bigger, it's better, and it's brighter than its predecessor. There's 12 gigs of RAM on board, and there's a choice of 128 or 256 gigs of storage. Now, storage always seems to be something that people they either don't really care about until they run out of it, or they don't like the smaller devices and they need to buy the bigger devices. With the way I change devices, I keep all my stuff in the cloud. So I'm just putting it out there that, you know, if you're on a budget, because there's a difference in price, obviously, in memory, you might want to look at the options of a subscription service to one of the cloud services. In this instance, maybe the Google Drive. The fingerprint unlock has been improved, and the face unlock seems to work a lot better than on the previous models. And this was something on the 8 Pro last year when I reviewed that I loved that phone, and that's been my gaming phone for the last year. But although the fingerprint was easy, the face unlock just still didn't seem to be as good as what Apple's done with theirs. I can quite safely say now that the technology's improved. Maybe it's due to the cameras, which we'll talk about a bit later, but it really does work. And this is an important feature to me. What I did notice, though, with face unlock is it unlocks. You see a little lock icon on the screen, and it says the phone's unlocked using face. But you don't actually go into the last apps that you were using like you do on an iPhone. Now, at first I thought, oh, they still haven't fixed it. But then I thought about it afterwards. When you pick up your phone and you look at it and unlocks and it goes into whatever screen you were in, let's say there was something on your screen you didn't want someone to see. If they were standing there, they were going to see it. So at least now the phone unlocks, and all you have to do is just tap it and it's back to where it was. So a vast improvement in the unlocking using fingerprint and face. The Pixel 9 is powered by the new Tensor G4. Now, this is the other thing that Google's always done right. Where other brands use different processors across the models in their range, Google's always used their best chip across the entire range. So in the years that have gone by, I've reviewed, let's say, the 8, the 8 Pro, and even the 8A, and the same was for the 7s, with 7, 7 Pro, and 7A. Those always had the same G4 or G3 and G2 in those cases, processor across the range. And that's something that I do commend Google for, because where you might not have money to buy a fancier camera or maybe fancier packaging in the sense of glass back versus plastic, at least you're getting the compute power so that what you're using the phone for can still be used in the way it was designed to be used. It's a 4,700 milliamp battery, which is kind of the norm in the market at the moment, with fast charging up to 55% in 30 minutes if you use the Google 45-watt USB-C charger. Now, that doesn't come in the box. In the box is just a USB-C to USB cable. USB-C to USB-C cable. But if you've got a charger lying around, that's what the whole idea is, right? But if you don't and you're going to buy one, if you are looking for fast charging, you need 45 watts. And as I said, Google's got a 45-watt charger that they sell as well. There's a purported 24+ hour battery life. And if you use Extreme Battery Saver, you could get up to 100 hours. Now, I say purported. I never, ever put my devices in a run to zero environment, even if I'm testing them. I don't believe it's good to run a battery down to flat. And I try and keep my battery in the midpoint as much as possible, even into the 70 and 80%. So while I'm sitting at work, or sitting and working at home, even now on the show, my phone is on a wireless charger. It's just sitting there and sitting at 98%. Some people say you shouldn't keep it charged all the time. Probably not, but I do take it off when I'm making calls and that. So I can't really ever tell if a phone's going to last 24 hours or not, or 12 hours, or whatever it is that the manufacturers say that it's going to do. That being said, when I'm using the phone and I'm playing games, which games and streaming are probably the biggest consumers of battery, even after a good hour or 2 hour session, I haven't felt the need to have to go and put my phone back on charge. So I would believe that if these are the figures that are claimed by Google, then these are the figures that Google is getting. It's interesting that looking through the specs as well, that it's got Bluetooth 5.3, which is to be expected. That's the latest, but it has Wi-Fi 7. Now, most homes and offices are only starting to get Wi-Fi 6 routers installed, or Wi-Fi 6 extenders installed. Google's already put Wi-Fi 7 technology into their phone. So there are Wi-Fi 7 routers out there, but they are by no means the norm at the moment. And this is probably a good testament to Google backing up its statement of wanting to ensure that your device lasts as long as possible. So, even if we get to a Wi-Fi 9 or 10 protocol, you're still going to be able to use your phone at good speeds, as opposed to maybe if it was delivered with Wi-Fi 5, which at the moment is still very acceptable. 5 or 6 years from now, it's going to be a little bit slow. Let's talk camera. So I'm smiling as I say that. For those that are watching, or those that are watching, they're going to see there's a grin. To me, that when you talk Pixel, you talk cameras. That's just kind of where it starts and ends for me, before anything else. Now, the 9 does not disappoint. It's got a 10.5 megapixel front-facing snapper, and now your selfies are going to look great. They've got software that also is designed to enhance. I'll talk about the software and tools a little bit later. I want to stay with the hardware for now. Flip the phone over, and there's a nice upgrade, not only to the design of the back, as I was talking about. We don't have that long camera bar anymore. It's now the island. I do want to pause at the moment. I've mentioned before, and I always talk about the fact that I use my Pixel as a gaming phone. Now, I'm going to demonstrate. If you're watching, you might be able to see it. But when you hold the phone like that, my fingers are now clipped onto the island, and before that was the camera bridge. So when I saw the island at first, and it wasn't edge to edge, I was like, oh no, I'm going to lose my super grip. But I'm pleased to say it's still there. In fact, if anything, I think this island is actually higher than the bridges. But you can still grip onto it if you want when you're holding it at the back and looking at it. I think though, what's really cool now is that the 9 features a 50 megapixel wide and 48 megapixel ultra wide grouping dual camera system. Now, if you take that coupled with the processor and the software that the 9 has, this camera is a beast. Again, remember that the 9 is the mid part of the offering. So later on, we might see a 9A, but if we take anything from the past, you've always had the 8, the 8 Pro, and then later on an 8A was released, which kind of bubbled in between there. The 9 is aimed at the middle to upper part of the cell phone market, and the camera is incredible. I took a few shots, like the same picture, with the iPhone 15 Pro and the 9. And let me say, there were certain instances, like portrait mode, for example, where I probably have to give the win to the Pixel. And that's just, I think, purely also the technology that's been put in using artificial intelligence and the way that enhances. So for those of you that don't do a lot of photography, portrait mode generally is those photos that you see where the subject is really clear and crisp, and the background has that bokeh effect, like a smudgy, blurred out effect. Portrait mode on the 9, as I said, it's stood up to 15 Pro, and 15 Pro is the top end of the iPhone market. So super impressed with that. Selfies seemed better on the Pixel 2. I don't know if they were better, they just seemed better. So as always, if the camera is the reason why you buy the phone, then the Pixel's definitely worth considering. Wait for the Pixel XL review, Pro XL review, which is going to come up now. Well, actually, let's go into the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So I think wow is just a good starting point. So again, the same design is being carried through. They've got the same new look and feel, the same island. In fact, that was the phone that I was holding up here. I wasn't holding my 9. I'm actually not sure where the 9 is. It's floating around here somewhere. Anyway, not important. So for the first time, though, there will be 2 sizes in the Pro lineup, which they haven't done before. Now, currently, I've got the Pixel 9 Pro XL, and that's what's available in the market. The 9 Pro will be coming out later in the year, or early next year. I'm actually not sure because it says spring. I wonder if that was spring Australia or spring America, because spring here is in a couple of weeks' time. It starts. Anyway, let's just say it's going to come out later in the year, for argument's sake. Now, the 9 Pro will be the same size as the 9. Now, the 9 is a 6.3, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So the 9 was 6.3. The 9 Pro XL is 6.8. Now, the 8 Pro was pretty similar. I think the 8 Pro was 6.7. So what they've done is they've actually going to introduce a Pro device that is smaller as opposed to bigger. And the XL is the current size of what you've come to expect with the Pixel Pros of the past. The colors and brightness of the screen are like nothing I've experienced on a Pixel before. Now, as I use my Pixel for gaming, I feel like how Google was talking about AI every 5 seconds, I'm talking about gaming. But I use it for gaming. Because I use it for gaming. The colors and obviously brightness is really important to me. And the other thing as well, with the increased nits, which is the measure of light, this helps in outdoor light conditions as well. So truly, the people at Google have packed a lot more into this device. The screen technology is better. The colors are better. They are so vivacious and so vivid. It also has that redesigned new body, as I said. The bezels around the edge, they're still noticeable. This is something that I did notice. And if you are watching the show, you'll see there's a screenshot that's still up. You can see the black line around the edge of the phone. It doesn't bother me per se, but there are other phones out there where it's pretty much edge to edge. So I'm hoping that in the next version of the Pixel next year, whenever it comes out, we will finally see a true edge to edge phone. So that's the one thing that I did notice, that in this new design, you do see the little pixel line, the bezel line that goes around it. There's 16 gigs of RAM as opposed to 12 and just the 9. Choices of 128, 256, 512, and 1 terabyte. So there's quite a big jump up in the size of memory that you have available to you. I think if memory serves me correct, on the Pro 8, you could only get a 512. I don't know if it went to 1 terabyte. But now, as we're consuming more, as we're taking bigger and better pictures and videos, we do need more memory. And I discussed memory before, right? Do you want to take a subscription and save money by buying a smaller entry-level memory size, or do you not want to have a subscription and go for a whopping 1 terabyte? So Tensor G4 chip's the same. It has a 5060 milliamp battery, which doesn't really affect the performance as much because it is a bigger device. The only difference that is noticeable is that the battery charges up to 70% instead of 55 in 30 minutes on the same Google 45 watt charger. So extreme battery saver mode, 24 hours plus, 100 hours on extreme saver, etc., etc. That will all be the same, but it does have a slightly bigger battery, which means that you won't get less experience because of the bigger screen. So they have factored that into consideration. The camera, the piece de resistance. Oh, I'm messing that one up. Apologies to my French friends and listeners. That was really terrible and terrible accent. But this really, if I summarize the word Pixel 9 Pro XL, camera. So cameras. So let's start at the front. 42 megapixel front-facing camera with a 103-degree field of view. Got to actually stop and pause for a second when you take stats like that. It is insane. Not only that, though, there's even zoom mode. So, you know, when you're on your phone and you've got those predetermined zoom modes, there's two modes to zoom in and zoom out. I actually think I'm still pausing and taking that in. I would wager there are a lot of phones out there whose collective back cameras don't take pictures as good as the 42 megapixel front snapper of the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So yeah, incredible. It also even takes portrait pictures. So as I was describing portrait pictures earlier, you can select the portrait mode now and have the whole background blurred out, that bokeh effect, and it is insane. Right, so let's flip around the back. Now the main camera setup has three larger than life beautiful lenses. They're also inside the new island style camera bar or camera island, or whatever you want to call it. Now the Pixel 9 and the Pixel 9 Pros, and I say Pros because the Pixel 9 Pro will come out later on. They both have the same 50 megapixel wide and the 48 megapixel ultra wide. But there's now also a 48 megapixel telephoto lens. This has a 5 times zoom, which is pretty much the equivalent of a 10 times optical. And it has a super res zoom that takes you up to 30 times. It's actually quite scary how far things zoom. I was sitting here showing my son the camera, and we've got this window. I'm looking at it because the window's there. That goes like way over. I live in a golf estate, so if you take the width of a golf hole, there's a house on the other side, and I can zoom right into their kitchen. I'm not saying that I zoom into their kitchen and I'm snooping on them. It sounds creepy and terrible. Back to the technology show. But the point that is like I just aimed out the window because there's all trees and stuff there as well. And that's how far this thing zooms. It's insane. I mentioned memory earlier on for a very good reason as well. The Pixel 9 Pros now can also shoot video in 8K. If you've ever seen 8K content, it's insane, right? I actually don't think that my eyes can even appreciate 8K. But you can shoot video in 8K, which means that will be super memory heavy. So if you are going to be shooting video, you will need to have an external device linked to your phone or one of those Wi-Fi drives, or at least consider the 1 terabyte option. And that's probably why Google's now looked at that, is that 8K is going to consume double what a 4K video will consume, right? Now, I shot lots of pics between the iPhone Pro and the Pixel Pro. I have to say it's actually hard to choose a winner. Now, up until playing with this device, I've always been of the opinion, and probably a lot of people out there, that the iPhone Pro cameras are the best in the market when it comes to a mobile phone. I really do battle to actually say that categorically and emphatically. There were some scenarios that I set up pictures where I think the Pixel was a clear winner. It wasn't close. Equally, I think there were some instances where the iPhone was a clear winner. So I would now have to say, though, that arguably they are both the best camera phones that are currently available. That you wouldn't be doing a disservice, or let me put it this way, for people that are choosing an iPhone just for the cameras. In other words, they really don't care about the operating system. You might want to then consider the Pixel. Or if you had a reason to prefer an Android operating system, then you at least know that you are now still getting as good, if not better, cameras in certain instances on a Google Android device than as you would get on an iPhone. So I just also want to mention at this point, and this is important, unlike Apple, the Pixel 9 Pro and the Pixel 9 Pro XL will have the same cameras. This will be a huge plus for people because there are people out there that will want a smaller form factor, myself included. So if I wasn't, I'm laughing. If I wasn't using the phone for gaming, yes, I use the phone for gaming, where I want as big a screen as possible. Then the 9 Pro would probably be the default phone for me because I prefer a smaller phone. I use an iPhone Pro, not an iPhone Pro Max, because I don't like the bigger screen. On the iPhone 15, this is the first time that Apple shot the 15 Pro Max with better camera technology. I think it got a 5 times optical zoom instead of a 3 times optical zoom. Doesn't sound like a lot, but to someone that's using their phone for professional photography, it's 60% more. That's an incredible amount. So well done to Google, because that is something that really, really bugged me, is that if I wanted the best in cameras, I'd actually have to take a phone that was bigger than I wanted it to be. So yeah, that was awesome. All right, I mentioned earlier, I'll talk about some of the software features that Google launched on board with the pen, and they're on board already. They're on the Pixel device. So the first one, and this is hands down going to be your favorite feature, I can guarantee it, especially if you're the person always taking pics like I am. It's called Add Me. Now, if you look back at family pictures, right, I'm the guy that takes all the family pictures in our family. And the thing that glares at me is that I'm in none of them. Like, I'm hardly in any of the family pictures. We recently went on a trip to Japan. There's my son, there's my wife, there's my son and my wife, there's my son and my wife, and other random people. Thanks to Magic Eraser, they got taken out afterwards. But I'm never in the damn pictures unless I found someone that's nice enough and or looks trustworthy enough that I'm going to run away with my phone to hand my phone to and ask them to take a picture. And even then, right, like, you don't know if you're getting the best picture. So this is where Add Me comes in. It does exactly what it sounds like. You take a picture of your lovely family, then you get one of them to step away from the little group huddle that they're in, take the phone from you, you go and join the picture, obviously on the other side of where that person was standing, and voila. Oh, there's a terrible French again. Voila. You're in the picture. And using AI and all the technology it has, it just meshes the picture perfectly. So it's as if you were there. Now, if you're watching the show, you'll see what I'm talking about. The first picture there's 2 guys standing there. And then the second picture, there's a lady standing there. So obviously the guy in the yellow jacket would have stepped away. The guy in the white stays there. So he's the placekeeper. And you'll see his arm slightly different. And she's there, So, yeah, Add Me. So I'm now going to use Add Me on all my future family photos and photo trips. The next picture, or the next software that came out, was AutoFrame using the Magic Editor. Now, we've had Magic Editor as part of the suite for a while now, right? But using some AI improvements, you can now auto reframe an image. So Google will generate a few for you to choose from. But what it does is that if you've taken a picture, so the example I've used here, which comes off their stock, there's a guy sitting blowing a bubble, and he's like right up in front of the whole picture. And you can see some grass on the mountains and that. But using AutoFrame, it's actually pushed him back, pulled some of the grass front, and now shows more of the mountains in the background. So it's framed in better, that you get a little bit more context of the photo and a bit more scale in the photo as well. So for someone that's using a lot of background imagery or shooting on location, you can now let Google AutoFrame for you, it's pretty cool. Now this one I like, but it has a little bit of work to go. I'm still going to talk about it, and I still think it's fun. And I've used some of the pictures. I've used pictures that I took here to show it. I didn't use some of the ones I used that really didn't come out so well. But it's called Reimagine. Now, again, using Magic Editor. And this is now where we're starting to see the Gemini Nano, which is on board, right? The AI tech that's on board. So you can create or recreate an image or part of it. And what I've done here, so the images that I've put up, I took a picture from a really tall building I was in of the river, the Brisbane River, with buildings and then the background. And then I used the tools. I went to Reimagine. I selected just the building, so you can tap the part that you want. And then it brings up a prompt window. So think Gemini, think AI, and I typed, make this building in rainbow colors. And what it's done is it's gone and put like all colors all the way up and down the building. Now, for some reason, it's changed the structure of the building as well. In fact, even a little bit of the design of the building. I don't know why it does that. And you can now clearly see that the building is now being, I'm going to say, photoshopped, because it doesn't look structurally correct at the moment. But it still looks freaking cool. So Yes, I like it. And also, there's actually a window there that you can give feedback to Google, which I've been doing in some of the pictures. I won't show you the picture I took of water and said, add a big shark in 3D coming at me. Think baby shark. Oh no, I've got to put that song in my head now. But the point is that what we're seeing is the ability to start doing on the fly editing using prompt technology like you would do on a desktop or a laptop. In the photo environment, and it can only get better. Like, not all tech is perfect, and I think the kudos here to Google as well is they've launched it. It's not perfect, but they've also launched and said, hey, give us some feedback. Here's a window, take a little bit of time, send us some feedback, and they'll improve it. I tried to do the King Kong climbing the building thing, right? Because I was screaming. It didn't work out so well either. That was one of the feedback I gave them. So there are actually enhancements across all the other camera features as well. So including a fully rebuilt panorama. They've put a new UI in, which makes it a lot easier to take the perfect panoramic shot. I love panorama shots, but they're actually not the easiest to take. So you can use this tool and it helps you select it. Google mentioned AI a lot in the introduction of these devices, and some of their use cases are really amazing. But I actually want to save those for the next hardware review. So as I said, I've called today Dress to the Nines Part 1. There will be another Pixel product review coming up. I've talked about the software of the cameras and all that in this one, and I'm saving the AI and specifically the Gemini tools. One, I'd like to spend more time with them and really get into them. And two, it gives me something to also just complement the other hardware that I'm looking to totally review in the not too distant future. Right, so then to finish it off, colors. There are 4 colors across each of the ranges. So the Pixel 9 comes in winter green, which is like a really nice soft mint color. Porcelain, which is off-white, obsidian, black, and peony, which is like a salmon pink, like quite a rich salmon pink. And then the Pixel 9 Pro comes in a rose quartz. That's the one that they sent me. Obsidian, porcelain, and hazel. So the obsidian and porcelain, the white and the black, for lack of a better description, is available in both 9 and 9 Pro range. And then the hazel's unique and peony's unique. And the wintergreen and the rose quartz. Now, I must say, when I got the rose quartz one, which I'm holding it up again, it's nice, but it's a pink color, right? It's maybe more feminine than I would choose. What is cool, and I actually left it out here, they sent me a porcelain colored cover, right? So I've got a porcelain colored cover in the rose, and when you put the phone in, which goes, now all of a sudden, the only part that you can see is by the camera sensor. And by the way, they've kept the thermometer there. If you remember the show that I did on the 8 Pro, it had the thermometer. It's still there as well. Still don't really have a use case for it, if I'm honest. But it is there, and there's obviously use cases for it. But now what I'm trying to point out is, besides the ports where you put your chargers in and the little bit of the island that you can see sticking out because of this, you can't actually tell that the phone was rose quartz. So yeah, that's actually quite cool. The cover covers really nicely. For all intents and purposes, like a porcelain covered phone. Right. The last thing as well is they have a 7-year OS guarantee. So that means that you could use your device for the next 7 years without worrying about software updates, making it defunct. So what's it? 2031. It's quite a long time. I'm going to wager you would probably have to change your battery once or twice in those 7 years. But I think the nice thing is that when you're investing the money that you are on a device like this, and you're not someone like myself that changes their phones regularly, it is good to know that you can take that cost and amortize it over 7 years, knowing that you're going to have really cool tech that's going to, stand the test of time. So that takes us to the end of things with a Z and the awesome Google Pixel 9 and Pixel 9 Pro XL. So what have we got in the news this week? Well, starting off with Telegram founder. So Telegram is like an app social network, like, I don't know, WhatsApp or Messenger, but it's kind of more about open source, like a Signal. So the French authorities have arrested Pavel Durov, I think you pronounce it. He's the founder and CEO, and he's a billionaire, and now he's in jail. And they're actually alleging that the messaging app's lack of content moderation or his unwillingness to can't say his, the company's unwillingness to play nicely with law enforcement makes him an accomplice to drug trafficking, money laundering, and sharing of child porn. Now, I don't advocate for drug trafficking, child porn, or money laundering, but I do advocate for freedom of speech. And I do think that, how do we make him responsible and or the company responsible for what people do with their technology? So in theory, if we were going to equate this to a non-technical scenario, does this mean that we should hold the SEO of Smith & Wesson or Glock accountable for every murder that happens with one of their firearms? Because, hey, they made the gun. Or maybe the people that make the ammunition, because the gun actually doesn't kill people. The bullets kill people. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, I don't really think it's right or fair. When they say playing nicely with us, he's got an obligation, or Telegram has an obligation to either protect privacy or not protect privacy. And the reason people are using their tech is because they want to be private. They don't want the government looking at them. So maybe the question is, hey, government, why do you need to keep looking at us? And yes, you can keep hiding behind child porn, money laundering, human trafficking, drug trafficking, hey, all bad things, right? There are other ways of finding these people. There was that whole cell phone network that the FBI, and even here in Australia and all over the world, they deployed what was supposed to be safe devices. I think it was called Darkwire, the project. You did it. You caught lots of evil people. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm kind of sitting on the fence on this. Like, if the law enforcement got a warrant on a specific individual's usership and Telegram said, oh, we can't help you on that, maybe there's a case there, and if they could give compelling reasons as to why they needed to see the chat of person X, if Telegram hands over 3 times and the content isn't what they thought it was, then, maybe they can push back. But if these people are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, well, then they maybe don't deserve their privacy. I don't know. There's probably a whole show on this altogether. Anyway, this was interesting. So BMW has overtaken Tesla in EV sales in Europe. Now, BMW saw a 35% year-on-year increase in sales. That's compared to a 15% year-on-year decline by Tesla. Now, when I read this at first, I was like, yeah, well, that makes sense, right? Tesla's been around longer. And obviously, if there's more players in the market, then their sales are going to decline because there's competition. But then I also thought about it as well, right? The original manufacturers, your BMWs, your VWs, Mercedes-Benz, they weren't just going to sit back and hand over the key. Oh, that's a terrible pun. They weren't just going to sit back and watch Tesla eat their lunch, right? They were always going to fight back. I think it was just a case of watch and learn, see what goes wrong, see what people say. What does the public want? What does the public not want? And now they're showing that, when it comes to the original tried and tested marks, the people are going to go back to those brands. So it'll be interesting to see what Tesla does. First of all, there needs to be a price drop. I mean, they're now on a par with European car manufacturers that have legacy, and they are way above the Chinese cars that are coming out and the Japanese cars that are coming out. So very interesting space, the EV space. I still want them to solve the whole electrical charging networks before even think about moving over to an EV. Apple sent a little thing out called It's Glow Time with a date. So what that tells us is that September 10th, American time, so September 11th, early in the morning this side of the world, we are going to be getting a Apple event. Now, what's interesting is Google had quite a bit of ire drawn against it for bringing their event, their Made by Google event, earlier. And when I say earlier, as I said, it was a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think now, and 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And everyone saying, oh, it's normally in October, and you're launching another device in under a year, and blah, 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 blah. Apple's doing the same thing. Apple normally does the event October, November, somewhere there. They're talking 10th of September. It's also a good month earlier. So there's got to be reasons why the tech companies are doing this. I don't know what the reasons are. Maybe it's because they need to get the new hardware into market that supports AR. Don't want to lose out on the AR race. Probably all will be unfolded when we see the event. But the point that I'm making is that these are the two powerhouses that have both bought their events earlier than they did last year. So let's see what comes out. So yeah, September 10 America, September 11 probably 3 a.m. again here in Australia. So this was just a little bit of light-hearted, interesting scariness. So there was a smashed screens survey done here in Australia by Vodafone. So Vodafone did a survey that showed that 1 in 5 Aussies, well, nearly 19 point something percent, so nearly 20%, 1 in 5 people would rather live with a smashed screen than fork out to repair because, well, they just can't afford it. So cleverly, Vodacom is launching like a subscription insurance product for, I think it's $15 a month. If you break your screen, your first one is $0 to replace it. And if you do it again, it's $45 to replace it. Now screens are like $500, $600, $700. So $15 a month insurance and then $45 fee doesn't sound like a bad investment, and well done to them. However, I do have to mention my good friends over at Zag. Now, they have this awesome screen protector technology. First of all, you've got two choices, right? You can walk into any retailer or even buy them online and get a pre-cut version if you have one of the popular devices. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's lots of phones out there that maybe aren't popular in a certain market. So therefore, there's not a lot of stock of pre-cut screen protectors. Don't worry about it. Zag has taken you into consideration as well. They have a technology called ISOD, which is Invisible Screen on Demand. I don't know what the pricing's like on these things, but I think it's like under $100. I stand corrected. I don't know. I don't sell the things. But basically, what it is if you picture like a vinyl cutter, you can walk into a retailer. So here in Australia, like Officeworks or JB Hi-Fi, some of the telcos, and you just tell them what phone you've got. So even if you've got a phone that's not popular, that's why I'm talking about it, they punch it into the computer and they put a blank of this material in and it cuts it out and they apply it onto your phone for you and you have a screen protector. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd rather pay $100 or $150, whatever it is, than pay $15 a month for insurance and then still $45 if I break it, and the inconvenience of having to go and get it done. And just put a screen protector on. Now, I do want to point out, because there's different types here. If you are getting a pre-cut screen protector, the chances are it's like a solid glass, like it feels like glass. If you do the ISOD, it actually feels like a gel. It's got like a soft gel touch to it. I'm looking at my phone to show you, but it's not going to help. You've got to feel it. Like if you run your fingernail on it, you can actually feel like little grooves, and they kind of self-heal as well. Some people like that feel, some people don't like that feel. It's a personal thing, but just be aware of that. But specifically for people that don't have phones that are popular, that is a solution for you. What I did find entertaining was the descriptions that they used in the review. In the survey. So a pocket plummeter contributed 70% of that stat of the 1 in 5, right? So this is someone that drops their phone while they're taking it out of their pocket or bag. So you know that feeling you pick it up and next minute and it falls. That was the highest, was 70% of all screen drops or screen breaks seem to be from a pocket plummeter. And then goes all the way down to 17%, as being the next one. They call them the social stumblers. This was while they were texting or scrolling on social media, it just slips out of their hands. The selfie smasher was 13%. So while snapping a pic with their phone, slipped out of their hands. I'm laughing because there's so many times there's people and they're doing it like upside down, it falls, it hits in the face, and if it's on video, you just hear that, oh, and then of course it hits the floor. So the selfie smasher, that was 13%. The screen stomper is 6%. These are when phones actually stepped on or crushed. So maybe, driven over or set down on, I don't know what definition of crushed is. The run club fumbler was also 6%. So this is drop while going for a run. So there we go. Running is bad for the health of your iPhone screen. And I wonder if they had it in their hands or in their pockets, because then does that count as a pocket plummeter? Anyway, I digress. And the last one was the baby bumbler. This was 5%. This is when your kid holds your phone or plays with it and drops it and smashes the screen. So definitely don't give your phone to your kids. So that takes us to the end of tech news. On to Are You Game. This is the last time I'm making an excuse that I've been distracted by the Esports World Cup. But wow. So let's just wrap it up quickly. 21 game titles, 8 weeks of play, over 200 of the world's best teams, which is more than 1,500 players. Don't know about all the shoutcasters and crew that come with as well. And an eye-watering $60 million prize pool across these titles. So well done to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It was a phenomenal event. I mean, it really was. There's been cries of sports washing and all these other things. I was just there for the game, right? I really, really enjoyed all the entertainment that was provided. I enjoyed watching that caliber of player. So yeah, that being said, I did play a little bit of a game. I went back to my old favorite and trusty, which is Clash Royale. As you may or may not know, I play games on my phone. So how else was I going to test the Pixel 9 and the Pixel 9 Pro XL? Clash Royale. So I did play a little bit this week, but yeah, this was the wrap up of the Esports World Cup. One of the exciting announcements is that we're going to have an Olympics next year, also in Saudi Arabia for esports. Thankfully, Raygun doesn't play esports, so we probably won't have any of those mishaps there. So yeah, that's Are You Game. Right, Q&A. I had one. There we go. All right. So this is one. I like this question, and I have a workaround. So the question is there a way to list Gmail inbox in alphabetical order? So, like when you get emails that come in, they come in first, and then you can either list them by date, or you can list them by modification, or you can list them by who sent them, which is generally the alphabetical order. Unfortunately, the simple answer is no, you can't. So if you open up Chrome and you go into Gmail, there is no way to order. The only thing you can do is oldest first or newest first. That's it. Now, for a company that has so much AI and so much intelligence and so much efficiency, I do have to say that's a bit of a fail, guys, and you've had this problem for years. So hopefully you've got a team working on Gmail that will fix this, and one day we'll be able to do it all natively. I do have a hack or a workaround if you want. So on your Mac, you can use Mail, and on your PC, you can use Outlook. All you do is create a new email account, sign in with Gmail. It's simple. Both of them support it. You will now have your Gmail mailbox in the native app of your device. And then what that means is now, because you're using Outlook or Mail, you can use alphabetizing. I think that's a word. You can put it into alphabetical order. I hear the people go, "Oh, Brett, but what about a Chromebook?" Sorry for you. You can't. So on a Chromebook, the only other option then you would have would be maybe like an Outlook 360 account, and then you'd read your emails in Outlook, and you would obviously link your Gmail to Office 365 the same as you would, what did I say? Outlook 360. Got my head in the Xbox of days gone past. So sorry, Office 365. So you would be able to use Office 365 and do the same thing. So I hope that that helps you out in a way. I'm sorry it doesn't answer the question. I must be honest, I really would like that as well. So yeah, basically that takes us to the end of the show. So until next time, keep your screens clean, especially if they're Pixel 9s and 9 Pros, and your knobs shiny.